So welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, September 6th. We're on the Sakai core team meeting. We have special guest Mitch Golden from Noodle Partners. And start off with just a few announcements, and then we'll hand it over to Mitch for about 20 minutes or so, and time for questions for potential contribution from Noodle Partners and where they are with that. It'll be kind of a technically skewed meeting because it's a core team. So here's a couple of things that are going on. And one of the things that came out of that we've been discussing on the core team is GitHub issues versus Jira. And one of the tasks that at least a few core team members asked me to do was to come up with a list of things that we use in Jira, kind of fields and features. So I started that, and there's a link there if anyone wants to kind of review that. It might be at least a good starting point. So we can have that discussion or figure out kind of what plugins we might need in GitHub issues if when we're going to move there. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Wilma Hodges from Longside and I are working on a survey plans to do survey in the community. It's been a couple of years since we did a survey, and right now what we're thinking is we might do two surveys. One is a tool survey like we've done in the past, and also combine that with, we usually do like an upgrade survey, like what version of Sakai are people on, what are their plans, rough plans time-wise for moving, for example, to 11, whether they use like the maintenance branch or do they use tagged releases, that kind of thing. So we think we might do one for upgrade information. Well, we'll actually combine upgrade information and tool survey into one. And then have a separate one, which is more open-ended, that might be feedback to help plan for Sakai 12, have broader discussions with the community about, the direction of Sakai, kind of things that we could use for more interesting discussions in the PMC and in the community. So that's what we're thinking right now. We'll mock up some things. We're also going to try and make the tool survey a little bit easier to do by using a matrix kind of question, maybe make it a little less overwhelming. And possibly, we were looking at the data from the future past years where we used a database query in conjunction with the tool survey, and what we noticed is that it really didn't add any additional information. It was a lot of extra work, and we didn't get really great number of responses on it. It was like 20, we typically have around 70 institutions that were responding to the survey, and then 20 of those were using the database query. And then because the database query was querying events, you're getting a lot of different, some people, keep events for a much longer period of time or have a lot more data, and some people truncate that data a lot quicker. And so it's just really inconsistent. It didn't seem like it's that useful. So I was thinking about dropping that. So that's the FYI on survey plans. We'd probably do that later this month, I hope, maybe October. So those are my announcements. Any other announcements or questions before we move on? Okay, cool. So what's on the agenda today? I mentioned Noodle Partners will be presenting, and I'll record that part of it, and then we'll go into talking about Sakai 11.2 planning. And we usually review issues, GitHub issues. Oops, I'm recording. See, I shouldn't have recorded that probably, security issues, but I don't think that will hurt anything. Or I can delete it, I guess. Truncate the thing. So probably won't record from the regular meeting, since we like to have the ability to have more of an open discussion, including occasionally security issues. So Mitch, let me make sure. Oh, do you still have the, looks like you've got the presenter permission. So if you want to go ahead and start, feel free to fire up, and I'll hand the floor over to you.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Wait.
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear for me.
Okay. And run the application, and there we are. You can all see my desktop, I trust? Yes?
Yep, I can see it. Oh, it just went away. I had it.
Oh, that's weird. I saw it, and now it stopped. That's weird. Let's restart.
Yep, don't forget to re-download the JNLP.
No, I don't have to. It re-downloads itself.
Oh, okay.
That was weird. I don't think I pressed anything to stop it.
Okay, I see it now.
Ah, okay, I know what I did. Oh, if I close this, it goes away. So how do I have to minimize this? Ah, okay. Yeah, so apologies, I'm running a Linux desktop, as you may see, and maybe that's the you'll see this blue line across that I can't figure out how to get rid of. I have a feeling it's a bug in something to do with it determining what the screen size is. But anyway, so thank you for letting me talk today. This is sort of a more technical version of what Neil has asked me to do, is a slightly more technical version of the talk that John Katzman, my boss, and I gave, I guess it was in July, I don't remember exactly, on the work that we've been doing with Sakai 11, and we termed the project Sakai 11E. By we, I mean Noodle Partners, my company, with material support from Pepperdine University, who is our client, and we're actually have deployed the work that I'm going to show you at Pepperdine, and they have started to use it for their online BSM program, Bachelor of Science of Management, for the Gracia Dios School, which is basically our client here. So here we have what we've termed Sakai 11E. It looks more or less like this. This is not, as you can see up here in the top, this isn't the actual production one, but it's, regular Sakai. When you log in, we have built a new homepage, and I'll just sort of quickly skip through. We call this section here the Commons, and there are a few versions of the Commons, which I'll get to. The Commons is a Facebook-style forum, is perhaps the quickest way to explain it. It has the interactions of Facebook, which is to say it's most recent first as far as posts go, and most recent last as far as comments go. This particular page doesn't have doesn't have any comments here, but I'll reply here, and you can see that the comments are most recent last within, just like Facebook. I also want to point out that's not my picture. That's a guy named Armand who works who works at Pepperdine, who was having some trouble with his photos, so I was messing around. The other things that we've done are, this is a calendar widget that shows sort of in a more succinct way what you have to do today or on any given other day. And in particular, we've done some work on allowing for our Adobe Connect usage to, so that if I click on this thing here, it will directly open the Adobe Connect instance rather than having to seek through stuff. Our goal here, and this calendar shows all of your events on all of your sites, aggregated here on your homepage, and here are your connections, both requested connections. I don't know why I have so many, but maybe I was testing something. And here are my actual connections. These three things are implemented as widgets on a two-column page, which I can show you in a moment. The other thing I would show you here is that we use the same kind of thing for this is a course site. It looks almost the same, except that now the calendar here shows only events associated with this particular site that I'm on. This widget here is a slightly different version, which doesn't show my personal connections, but rather shows the people in the course or site sorted by their role. These are the instructors, these are the students. It's actually also sorted by who's online at the time, so the people who are online will pop up higher in the list. And again, this widget, the so-called Commons widget, is just the same, except it's just dealing with courses, particular comments and replies particular to this Commons. That is to say, particular to the course, as opposed to my personal connections. The one back here on my my home site, which you get to the usual way. These are, whoops, why did it go there? Oh, because that's where I was. We termed this homepage the quad, with the idea that these are your friends who you would run across on your quad at your university. And these posts are for people who I am friends with, so you can see Jackie Gendris and Bina Westrich. Anything they post to their wall will come up here, whereas back in the course, when I go, oh, I could have gone directly. This is its own, think of it sort of being like a forum. This is like its own forum. So that's sort of the major aspect of what we were talking about. The other thing that I will show you, which I should probably log in.
I just want to interrupt a second. I think one important thing you share with me is kind of how it's implemented technically and how turning it on.
I'm about to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew what I was talking about.
Okay.
These here are what we call generically the bullhorns, and you'll see there are two of them. If I don't have anything, what this, let me see if I log in as somebody else, if I have some to show you. Nope, they're all cleared here. I'll try one more. Let's see if she has any. Nope. All right, one last thing. Log in on different. And you. I swear I had some, and I checked for a few minutes today. Oh, there we are. So these are two, I'll say Facebook style, but it's far from being just Facebook that now has this kind of facility. It shows you two different kinds of announcements. Here are announcements associated with your coursework. So this would be an announcement made by the faculty member in the course. It would be a deadline announcement. Anything that would create an announcement or an event that you want to know about. It would go under the Bullhorn here, and these are social events, which would be friend requests, connections that here you see John Katzman confirmed my friend request. Anything like that goes under the little personal one. So the idea here, just to sort of complete the sort of overview, is that we were looking to make Sakai more usable by people who would be only interacting with their degree program through Sakai. So, there's no sort of off-channel place where people are doing a lot of these things. And so that was the goal of this work. So it's sort of these, the major part of it that I'll talk about today are the four things. This piece here, the three widgets on the home page. Any questions or anything before I go into the technical details of it? Should I take that as a no? Okay, I'll take it as a no. All right, so let me show you how we did it, okay? I have here, I should have here, this is what I call Sakai 11E. It's our deployment, what we've deployed to Longsight, who is hosting the work for Pepperdine and who has very generously offered to host this sort of concoction that we've added. So what have we actually added? Let me start by addressing what we've actually added or looking to add to the main trunk of Sakai. And it's actually much less than it might appear. Roughly speaking, what we're trying to do here is only associated with the bullhorns. This stuff's not part of trunk, and or not part of the main release of Sakai. So if we look here in the GitK, if we look here in GitK, here are the commits that we've done, and you'll notice, by the way, that the people who I hired to do this are two reasonably well-known Sakai developers, Steve Swinsberg and Adrian Fish did the work, and I did a small amount of it when I had bug fixes that I needed urgently to do, but all the major work has been done by Steve or Adrian. So I say that by way of addressing the issue that you are doubtless concerned about, which is what happens if I go away or Noodle Partners goes away. The answer would be, well, these are guys who are not likely to go away. So hopefully they can continue to maintain it if need be. At the bottom here, so here's Sakai 11.1, which is what we're running on. And so after this is how Longsight likes it to be called 11 snapshot. So we actually run off of this 11.1 reverted to called 11 snapshot. And then here is some commits that I wanted to bring in that are, this one here is already part of master, but it isn't in 11.1, so I wanted to do it. And here I will tell you all of this stuff. These are things that Steve and this was actually done, this whole thing, 31206, that was a commit. One problem that Sakai has as a general matter is an inability in many places to link directly into entities within tools. So you can link to the tool homepage, but you can't link to the particular thing. And there were a number of those, like with announcements, I think, that Steve and Adrian had to look at, because over here on our calendar widget, we were pretty adamant that it's annoying and you guys should try it sometime. Go into the regular Sakai calendar and try to see how many clicks it takes, especially if the event is after 5 p.m. or before 8 a.m. How many clicks it takes for you to get from the calendar event, assuming you find it, to the actual thing that's being linked to by the calendar event. So there was some work that was done there to expose URLs. And there was another thing that Steve worked on. Yeah, see he's adding another thing to do with the, exposing calendar events in some way. I don't remember all the details. But these are things that I think may in some cases be already in Sakai master and maybe not. I'm not sure. There are things that I think you will probably find very little controversy about because they just help expose things. So then here, this is one, I'm trying to remember what this is. Now, this is the same thing Steve did for assignments. And I'll skip this one for now. I'll come back to it. I don't remember what Steve was doing here. It doesn't look like. This I think is just his profile. He has a new thing called Profile 2, which he must have tweaked here. I don't remember why I needed this in here. But again, nothing, just a standard kind of thing. Add connections, mount points for my friends, not much. Adrian will have to explain this to you. There was something that I thought made me shiver, which is that there's places in here where it actually is looking, the show page producer was looking at what Sakai version you were running and thereafter doing different things depending on the version it was running. Some of you may correct me here, and it was having trouble with running under snapshot, so Adrian did that. So you can see all the way up through here, these commits down here are basically just tweaks and fixes and corrections to the API and the thing itself. So far, no functionality whatsoever has been added other than the sort of preconditions for the sorts of things that we want to do and that I expect everyone else would agree is a good idea. So here is the one commit that implements the two bullhorns that I just said here. This stuff is implemented now in a single squashed commit here that does the bullhorns. And there was a change. I don't know if we have anyone from NYU on this call today. Do we? Is anyone from NYU on? Yes, Kyle. Whoops. We were asked to make a change because this bullhorn here, bullhorn here actually would show John Katzman's picture had he set one up over here, just like it was showing people's pictures over here when they post. Over here on the academic side, it's a little bit weird to show pictures of the faculty all the time, and NYU thought that it was a good idea instead to show the tool icon, and so that was a change that was made at NYU's request. And then more social alert URLs. Not sure what he was doing here. This is all stuff to do with those bullhorns, changes that were made subsequent to the initial release. Here is something that Steve had to do, which is here, this page is not rendering iframes. And I know it was a goal for Sakai to get rid of all the iframes that were on the various tool inclusions. However, in 11, they did it almost all the way, but not actually in the two-column format. And we wanted it to be in the two-column format because if you render this as an iframe, one thing that we have done here with this commons is that it's an infinite scroll. So if you scroll this window down, it pulls in more and more and more stuff. And if it's rendered in an iframe, that doesn't work. So we had to, Steve had to do something to at least optionally render the tools inline. And that was just again, something that I think you'll have general agreement is the direction Sakai wants to go in anyway. So Steve just did that. And here you'll notice that these tools here this calendar tool, for example, doesn't say my calendar, which is the name of the tool, and this thing here, which is the commons, doesn't say commons. We felt it was slightly annoying and superfluous to have the title of the tool on top of the tool when it was obvious. So Steve added a toggle to do that. Here, there's actually a bug he's using some stuff that uses velocity, and when you start velocity, if it's not, it tries to log in whatever directory you start the server in. So we just said, let's turn off the velocity logging, which doesn't do anything anyway. That's a simple matter. I don't remember what this is, but maybe add page parameters to my folder, alt tab selection. I do not remember that one. And this is, Neil knows what this is. I brought it up on the dev list. When I tried to go live with 11.1, you'll notice the Pepperdine logo here is wider than this column, and somebody had restyled the column between 11.0 and 11.1 so that it cut off the Pepperdine logo, and I had to do a quick fix for that. So that, I believe, has been fixed. So all of this is stuff that we want to put into Sakai 11 or whatever you'd like. Basically, it's cleanups, bug fixes, and advancements of directions that I think there's general agreement Sakai wants to go, plus this one here, 30461, which is the social and academic Bullhorn functionality. I believe you'll find that there's the likelihood is that if you pull this in, maybe not immediately, but in the long run, you'll be able to get rid of the sort of stuck work that's been done on the dashboard functionality, which I think is, from a user experience point of view, this is preferable anyway. So that's what that is. The only thing I wanted to go back and discuss here is this one commit called assignment wall. Our hope was to use the let me see if I did it here. So in the, no, I'm sorry, it's in the assignments tool. Why did it ask me that? Assignments. So let me see if I can find this. You see here there's a commons that is inserted here. We have this thing called the comments in the lessons tool, but there's no place for people to discuss assignments near the assignment. And so we wanted it to optionally be able to put comments in here. The instructor chooses whether or not one appears. Because there's no hook for such a thing in the assignment tool itself, we unfortunately had to do it with a rather simple commit here that sticks this has comments in that allows that comments to appear. So that one's not something we would want to actually put into the Sakai 11 core or whatever, but if people want to actually use the commons in that way, then the commons, you would need to drag this commit in at some point. It's unlikely to conflict with anything, but that was there for that reason. So that's all there is there in the main thing. There are two other repos. One is called Commons, and this is Adrian. You'll see all the commits are by Adrian. This is the Commons tool that I showed you. It is a completely separate. It's a completely separate functionality. You don't have to have it. You can, as you wish. And likewise, there's these widgets are, Steve wrote this. This is all Steve's doing pretty much. There are the three other widgets, actually four, I should say, that are here. They are one, two, one, the calendar. There are two widgets, one here, the site members, one, the my connections, three, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. This isn't very obvious up here, but this is actually a widget that has the unfortunate name site information, and it pulls in the site description so that you have something at the top there that describes what you want to, let me see if I can, yeah, I can actually go over here. This is sort of more how it would usually work, I think. Yeah, see, I didn't turn off the title. I guess this isn't a great example, but that's the fourth widget. So those are the four widgets. And these things I'm going to put in Sakai Contrib so that people can use them, but they aren't part of main Sakai.
I thought you were going to, I misunderstood. I thought you were contributing the widgets and they were easy to sort of turn on and off.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're not part of the main Sakai repo. They're just going to be in Sakai Contrib. If you guys want to pull them into the main Sakai, I'm perfectly, I have, when I started all this, I actually didn't think that we would want to touch the main Sakai at all. And it was actually Adrian and Steve who said, no, they're going to want all this stuff. So I pulled it in. The thing that you can turn on and off is these bullhorns are, if you don't want them, and you do pull that, assuming the community decides to indeed pull them in, there is a, let me see if I can pull this up, believe, you see, no, that's not it. Oh, I guess I don't have it in here. There's a config here in the Sakai.properties file that turns it off if you don't want it. I took the position that it's likely that people will want it, so let's make it default on. But if you don't like it, you just turn it off. It's just a Boolean to turn that off. The other stuff, just in case I haven't been clear enough, actually let me, oh, I am logged in as Sakai administrator. Let's, oh, actually, no, I take this back. I want to go here. I want to go, and I've noticed this. Okay, go here. So let's go to, let's say, the Mars site. The way that home page is constructed is the usual way. You go in, here's the pages, here's the course home page, and it's a double column layout, and I can edit the tools. Here are the 4 tools. The site information was here, top left, then the commons, then the calendar, then the site members, and they're just plain old widgets. That's it. So if I want to add a tool, I can add one, and you'll see they show up the here's my calendar, for example. It's just like that. So I added that to the default user site, and then we only at the moment have 3 sites, so we added that added it to the sites manually, and so but it's the usual thing. It's no different than any other creation of any other page of that kind. Is that Neil? Is that what you wanted me to show?
Yeah, thank you. I think that covers a lot of it. I have a few questions, but yeah, I think that does cover it pretty well. And of course, I know you're open to questions from the audience. And
yeah, anyone have any questions here?
I did myself, if nobody else does. One thing is, in addition to the calendar, in addition to it not having to be in an iframe, it's sort of like the replacement for the synoptic calendar, right?
It could be, yes. And we are using it, I should say. Not only could it be, it is, in fact. We are not, as a general matter, showing the synoptic calendar on our course sites because it's I mean, I don't want to be critical, but it needs a significant amount of work. It has some considerable usability problems from my point of view. And so we thought this one, aside from it being placed more conveniently, it's much easier to it's much easier to use because maybe I think on the Mars site, no, maybe on the Mercury site on here on my test, I put everything. I don't have any events here, but it's. I actually, we haven't gotten around to it, but I was gonna. Did I not have the calendar? I thought I had it. Maybe they turned it off here. Oh, here it is. What is considerably problematic in my view is that if you have an event scheduled after 5 or before 8, you're given no hint of it whatsoever on this calendar. And I actually asked Adrian to go fix it. He hasn't had the time, but it's sort of out of the way here. It takes up a lot of space, so I thought that we would just go with this calendar for our usage. But of course, that's up to the individual users. That is to say, the individual sites to decide how they want to do it.
Cool. And I picked up on that. It has the link directly to the event, which is pretty awesome. And so it's less clicks. Are there other kind of salient features about the calendar that we should know about?
I don't know how many. I didn't talk about this, but if you are working with eSync training, which we are, here eSync training at our request, we contracted with them to do something that syncs up the Adobe Connect calendar with the Sakai calendar. And because the way it was working is you would go into the LTI tool and you'd set up a schedule of events, and they wouldn't appear in your Sakai calendar, so that's weird. Now you have potentially multiple places you have to go to find out what you're supposed to do for your courses. So this is something that they built, that we contracted them to build. I'm also going to put that up in the Sakai contrib area. Of course, you still have to use Async Training and Adobe Connect,
Right.
But that's another thing that we.
So is that like a general LTI thing, or specifically just Adobe Connect?
Well, Async Training is something that exposes Adobe Connect through LTI.
Wow.
Adobe Connect, I don't know how many of schools are using it. It's pretty popular, but it's quite weird because it's sort of 2/3 of a product. And to make it into a product, you have to buy other services. So, like, for example, it doesn't support a dial-in. You know, you only get VoIP audio, and that's annoying and problematic with potentially large numbers of users. And it doesn't have LTI, so you got to buy Async Training. So it's an Async Training thing, but Async Training is a way to make Adobe Connect work with LTI.
Okay. I was just thinking if you somehow were opening up, the calendar tool to make it easier for people to post events from LTI tools, if that's something new, that sounded pretty cool to me.
But that, to some extent, exists already, right?
Okay. I'm not sure. That's
I
why was
don't
asking.
know. I mean, I know that Async Training had to build stuff.
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether, I mean, if somebody wants to do that, then this here, this commit is the one to look at. And, they seem to be doing things here to the calendar that might actually be relevant to that. I don't think they were doing it with a mind to making a general facility, but they may have done so sort of by accident.
Yeah, it might have already existed. I just wasn't. I wasn't aware of that, so I don't know. Okay, cool. And I guess my, my other question, which I think we talked about, is, and maybe we'll need to do some testing, and we can probably get some help in doing that testing if we need it. Is I assume that it's this stuff is all responsive, all
Yep.
works with. And have you also? And I think we mentioned like accessibility. Did we also?
We did not actually do accessibility testing with it.
Okay.
And it's a good question. So in terms of responsive, this happens. It has some. Oh, that's interesting. I never saw that before. The site members are not seemingly showing up, even though there are. Oh, there are no site members on this site. That would explain it. But anyway, again, what we did doesn't actually, it doesn't really change anything, because this is just a regular 2-column thing with with tools pulling themselves in. So we did have some bugs in terms of positioning and so on, and they did get looked at. But this outer nav thing, this stuff, we did make it work with the responsive design. So
I have a question on that, actually.
The problem that I actually have right now is that I think the calendar should actually go on top, right? That when you go from this view to the other view, I think somehow we would like the calendar to scoot over on top of the commons. And so that's actually a potential issue.
Yeah, and I could imagine another issue, which is if you have more than one infinite scrolling area, how would you do that, right? Because if you're on mobile and one is infinite scrolling and you never,
You never get to the bottom, right? And
Right.
and in fact, if this is infinite scrolling, how do you get to the calendar? You basically go
Right.
past all of the, all of the
All the
posts
posts, right.
in your entire course. So that could potentially at some point become a problem for the users. So that's a known bug that if somebody has a suggestion, I'd like to fix. But yeah.
So those are all my questions. I don't know if anyone else has any questions for Mitch, either technical or functional, or comments. I saw Adam's comment, and he's like, "We want all this." That's Adam's comment.
Yes. Well, you can have it. I just have to tell Adrian. I think Adrian already has it in Sakai Contrib, and my stuff is public. I'll in the next few days I'll set this up. I'd be very excited to have Adam use it because then it'll be more testing than we have done. I know Kyle has looked at this, so if people want to, let me say that I actually have found another significant bug in the grade book that I'm going to fix today. So you may want to pull some of this stuff just to get those fixes. It's not the grade book. It manifests itself in the grade book, but this is something I would love to talk to this committee about, but not today since it's not on the agenda. There's some issues in the way that I think you guys are handling development that I would love to talk about, but there's a bug in the caching that is going to cause all kinds of intermittent problems, and it's manifesting itself in gradebook NG, and Steve found the problem, and I'm going to fix it today.
Cool.
So,
thank you. That's cool.
You'll see that.
Yeah, I think just my initial thought is if the core team and / PMC, there's some overlap between the PMC and core team, but we want to get both on board. Is want to summer all of this in. I think we might want to think about. I think it's more than we usually put in a dot maintenance release. So one option would be to think about doing it for Sakai 12, but make a smaller scope Sakai 12 that we get out quicker, which we've talked about doing that kind of thing before. In other words, instead of waiting a year or two to get a Sakai 12 out, make this the Sakai 12 for early 2017 or something like that. So I'm just throwing that idea out there for people to start thinking about.
And I just wanted to say, Neil, to reiterate one of the things you said to me, that to some extent, right now there isn't a clear line about what's allowed to go into 11 dot stuff releases, that it's not all bug fixes, and so you are to some extent pulling in new features when you pull in 11.1 or 11.2.
Yeah.
There were some issues in terms of changes that were made between 11.0 and 11.1 that required, for me, a small amount of work. I mean, that wasn't a big deal, but it was the sort of thing that was not strictly oriented towards bug fixes. And
Right.
So if I send this thing out today, you guys are going to have a choice about how to tell everybody about this caching bug. What are you going to do about it? Do you want to release 11.2 that just consists of this, or what? So
Well, we've got, that's a good.
You got to think about that.
Yeah, totally. I think we do have an 11.2 planned for, it looks like probably the end of October, which means we'd have to get a release candidate out, I guess, end of September, early October, because we like to freeze it at some point. So it might be we can get it in that. But that's a very good point. Well, we've talked about that on the core team, and my understanding is, and others would understand this better technically than me in terms of how it would be managed, but probably we would need additional resources. in order to be able to, for example, if we wanted to have different have more branches that are being managed, so potentially we could have an 11 bug fix branch only. That would make it easier to just like roll out bug fixes and then have a separate feature branch. But we don't have enough people power to sort of maintain all those different areas, and that becomes a bit of why we get a little bit stuck into. We generally like our maintenance branches mostly to be bug fixes, but then we also recognize that, if we're going to get out reasonably, not earth-shaking, but reasonably important feature enhancements in a reasonable time period, rather than waiting for the next big release, then we have to the team has to make that trade-off. So that's the conundrum we have.
But let me sort of get this consideration here. What's funny is you guys, I'm sure, are all aware that universities are often like conservative to the point of insanity about deploying new versions of things. I keep seeing questions on the dev list about some university that's running 2.8 something or whatever, and I would wonder what you guys would do if somebody found a major security problem, and you just were forced to say, we have to release this patch because 11.1 has a major security bug. Right now, I don't know what you would do, and that's...
What we would typically do for that is we would send out a security announcement, and we'd make the patch available, and the security working group would make themselves available for consultation.
As a patch, not as a point release.
If it was important enough, right? Otherwise, if we felt like it could wait, then we would put it in the point release to make it more convenient, so people could just pull down the point release and have it automatically. So typically, that's what we'll do, is we'll just make it a part of a point release. But if there was something we thought was really, really urgent, or the team thought was really urgent, then we would make it available as a patch.
But I think the question he's asking.
Anyway, we're
Chuck Hedrick has a question.
Yeah, I think the issue he raises, we wouldn't do a point release for 2.8. I don't think.
Right. No, we wouldn't do a point release for 2.8. That's right. We would do it for only the supported versions, which right now are 11 and 10. So you'd only be looking at doing for those two.
A lot of times with the security, it's not Sakai that might be the problem. You might have Tomcat. You can't upgrade to a new Tomcat on older Sakais because it just isn't compatible. Or old Java, old Sakai might run on Java 6. You can't do anything. Oracle's not supporting that anymore. So it's like you get so far behind, it's just a cascade of stuff.
Yep.
One thing I've noticed is I think we're under heavier pressure now than we have been in the past to get new features in point releases. And my sense, I'm in charge of lessons, looking at what happens in lessons, we've got two schools that are throwing lots of new features in. In past releases, that simply wasn't the case. I think we've just got more new stuff going on in Sakai than we used to have. And it's kind of hard and we haven't maybe adopted our release policies to reflect that.
I would say one thing that's cutting in your favor now, at least, is that Git makes a lot of this stuff easier than Subversion. So maintaining multiple branches is a substantially easier thing to try to accomplish. I'll bring this up since we've drifted to my other pet peeve. Right now, when I have a bug fix or a thing that I want to submit, I'm instructed to base it only on master. And in fact, it's kind of, for me, wrong-headed because I work on 11 because that's the thing I care about fixing. And I'm perfectly happy to submit branches that are rebased onto both 11 and 12, and for that matter, if it were appropriate, 10, especially if 10 is pulled over to Git, which is one of the things I spoke about doing with Neil a couple of weeks ago. It seems to me that you would conserve your resources better if the people who are submitting whatever, bug fixes, features, whatever, were required to rebase them onto every active branch. And right now, the branch manager has to do all this work to, rebase, and it might or might not be easy to do. As the branches diverge, my expectation is that it gets harder to do. And furthermore, there are a significant number of changes that people have been making in Sakai 12 that I'll call gratuitous. That is to say, things like reordering the import statements at the top of the file. They have no functional effect, but they can sure as heck make rebasing more tedious. And so I would have suggested that you guys change the way you work. But I don't know all the issues. I only suggest it because I'm willing to do it. I think that developers should, they should be the ones wading through the conflicts if they arise, not the branch managers. But,
yeah, I agree on the reordering of import statements. That caused me issues, and I have no idea why anybody did that.
Yeah. I mean, there may be some, listen, I mean, people do this stuff. When I get to the thing, when I work collaboratively, I take the view that, unless it's really just egregious, I don't change other people's stuff. And, I may want spaces rather than tabs, or, whatever, your favorite, pet peeve in that kind of thing is. But I did notice, I only bring up the input statements because somebody did do it. And, it's just a pain in the neck because you want to add an import statement somewhere and you add it in the middle of this reorganization that's gone on, and now you're stuck, figuring out what was actually removed and what was actually just moved. And it's, more work than it should have been. And as I said, as a developer, you can do it, but if you're the branch manager, boy, that's a pain in the neck for nothing, for no reason, in my opinion.
So I just want to do a time check. We're actually at 11, so we've gone, used a good chunk of the time. I mean, I think it was important, so I'm glad, and I really appreciate you jumping on the call, Mitch, and presenting. And looks like, so yeah, really, really appreciate that. It was a great presentation.
Sure. Great pleasure meeting you all, and I'm open to discussions about any of these matters, or my opinions as a newcomer, or however you want to look at it. So, thanks a lot for inviting me.
Cool. So I'm going to stop the recording. I have one more question for you, Mitch, which is, I noticed that there were real names being used on the demo. I realized they might just be staff. I wasn't sure if it might.
No, none of them are students.
Okay. So
I'll double check that. I apologize. Let me just make sure of that. No, none of them are students. Some of them are Pepperdine staff, but I don't think that's, people would object to.
Okay. Cool.
Hearing.
Yeah, I just don't want to publish something and have it.
No, it's none of it's for. I did not show the production Pepperdine site, so no. But they are most of them real people. One of them is Adrian Fish, somewhere.
Yeah. Saw that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mitch.
I will depart, and you guys maybe continue.
Okay, you're welcome to stay or depart as you feel free.
All right. I think I should depart. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Features